Who's right? Who's wrong? You decide. Hash it out with Frank Garay and Brian Stevens. Brought to you by Remen Wholesale.
Hello, my name is Brian Stevens, and this here is Frank Garay, my partner for almost a decade now. Anyways, today we want to talk to you about TRID, the Truth in Lending Integrated Disclosure, and the fact that the CFPB in August is now going to start requiring lenders to send out a toolkit, which is a 24-page pamphlet that they suggest buyers fill out in order for them to better understand what they're actually getting into. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, here's my thoughts. Part of this toolkit, you got to check it out. You can go to consumerfinance.gov. No, I think it's .gov actually, and you can find the toolkit there. But in that toolkit that you're required to send out come August 1st, this is a requirement. You got to send it out to them within 3 days of whatever, right? But you got to send it out. In that toolkit, it's strongly recommended that they shop other lenders.
Sure.
Okay, and so here I am. I'm already down the road with my buyer who's very happy with me, you know, and now for me to comply with the law, I have to tell him, oh, by the way, do yourself a favor and shop a couple other lenders, and you might be taken off. To me, it just doesn't seem right. There's definitely a problem with the way it's logistically set up. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the CFPB believes that you have to have 4 components in order to send out a good faith estimate, and this is why they're not requiring you now to give bank statements, paycheck stubs, and W-2s. When you have those components, it means that you are emotionally committed to that lender when you're actually giving over the paperwork. So the suggestion here is that if you're not handing over bank statements, you don't have an emotional commitment over to this lender.
Okay.
So at that point, you should take a half-baked truth in lending and then go shop it to 3 lenders. When really, shopping to 3 lenders with half the story is only going to get you at best speculation in terms of what you're going to qualify for, which really isn't going to necessarily help what that consumer is trying to do, help what that buyer is trying to do.
Right. I think the other thing in the toolkit that's interesting too is that they recommend that they shop their settlement agents or their closing agents as well. Now, if I'm a consumer, I'm not in the industry all day, every day. You know, this maybe is my first time buying a house. I mean, this is going to raise for me a lot of questions like, what is this all about? I don't even know who to ask. And then it says, well, talk to a realtor about who to ask. You know, I just think that it's going to create more problems and more confusion for the borrower than it is, you know, going to provide something that's beneficial to the borrower in the long run or in the end or at the closing of the deal. Again, I think that the loan officers really need to be prepared for this toolkit, understand what's in it, and this is one of those things, you know how you prep them for the truth in lending?
Right.
You know, it's like, look, you're going to get this form. It's going to be crazy. And this is what it's going to say, and this is what it all means. So when you get it, don't freak out. You're going to have to do the same thing now with this darn toolkit.
Well, you know, it's really with settlement service providers, I find this one interesting because a lot of time your settlement providers and your title and escrow go hand in hand. What they suggest in here is that a buyer's policy, title policy, is not necessary to get. It's something that's optional. Yeah. You know, let's take a step back. Most buyers don't even know what a buyer's policy is.
Right.
Most lenders and real estate agents don't know what a buyer's policy is. So to go ahead and tell them that you may or may not want to get this is, I don't think that's very helpful.
I don't either.
And then taking it a step further to go say, shop a settlement service provider amongst your friends who also don't know anything about this. We're basically, the industry is telling our consumers to go out and get advice from people who don't have any knowledge about the industry, rather than defaulting to your real estate and lending professionals who are working in the communities that they're servicing. Again, I kind of see it as out of touch with reality, and really kind of shows the underlying current of distrust that the CFPB has professional mortgage lenders.
Right, and so I think what's going to wind up happening, guys, is that you know how you've got when you're doing your loan app and you're doing your interview with your clients, you've got your little elevator pitch on the loan app or the good faith estimate or the truth in lending. You're now going to have a little elevator pitch on the toolkit because it's coming. There's going to be things in there that are confusing. You maybe want to, at the point of application, kind of go through it with them so they understand what it's all talking about and be able to brush over some things that they don't want to get too involved with.
You know, but overall, I mean, there is a lot of good information in here for consumers. If they were to sit down and actually look at it, I think overall it would probably be helpful. There are certainly some things I would tweak and not necessarily be so hell-bent on sending this thing out in August. Let's fix the tweak so this thing really is a service to consumers. But right now, time seems to be more important than content. You know, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and actually for your first-time home buyers, this would be a great little tool to do education with them on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're the lender helping with it, so they probably won't go shop anybody else to be like, no, I'm happy with you. So anyway, let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll catch you guys later here at Hash It Out.
Bye.
Bye.
Today's Hash It Out was brought to you by Remen Wholesale. Hash It Out airs every Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time and can be viewed on MortgageNewsNetwork.com.
This is Mortgage News Network.